Hello, welcome back to SuperCoach Edge for the season finale of season 2024. Well, that is it. It's curtains on another season, and what a roller coaster it has been, with the terrifying lows, the dizzying highs, and the creamy middles, to quote the great Homer Simpson. It only feels like last week we were furiously making infinite changes to our teams, heading into round zero, still trying to get our heads around the early buy setup and the fact that there actually was a round zero, as stupid as that is. But who knows, it actually might make a reappearance, Liam, in 2025. We'll have to wait and see. But it's gone oh so quick. And here we are, lamenting trades and looking back on an archaic end to the season with suspensions, injuries left, right and centre. And how funny is it to think at the start of the season we're complaining about, 40 trades being too many. And in the end, it actually wasn't enough. And I don't know about you, Liam, but I was crawling to the finish line with donuts galore.
I thankfully got away. I think I had one donut over the last couple of weeks, but I was relying on the mascot for 2024 of my team, Marty Hoare in defence, who was the hero on 23 when he scored, 100 and something, 101 or something, 103, I think it was, to cover for Sheezy, but then was the villain this week when he scored just 28.
Oh, that just, as you were talking about there, the dizzying highs and terrifying lows. Would have preferred a creamy middle from Hoare. That would have been something different.
That's it. But give me a 60. Give me a 60.
Yeah, exactly. We'll
70.
take it. We'll take it.
It'd be nice. But anyway, It is what it is. But yes, trades, those 40 trades, where'd they go?
Yeah, evaporated virtually.
That's it.
Incredible.
That's it. But before we do get stuck into things on this final episode, if you aren't following us across our socials, do so now so that you are you're ready when we
Be
come
prepared.
back. Yeah, you're
exactly.
Prepared. This is the starting pre-season.
Never too early. Or late.
Simply search, and that's it. Search SuperCoach Edge, and don't forget to subscribe so you are notified when our content drops next year. Or later this year, probably, when Team Pick comes out. I don't know what it is. On Twitter, you'll find us at @SuperCoach_Edge, David at DamoJ88, myself at Liam Evans_95, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Search SuperCoach Edge, and you will find us there.
Very good. Well, we are, of course, recording this live on YouTube. With a few people tuning in, some of our regular punters, and we'll whack up some of their comments and questions throughout. And of course, we will be giving a big thank you to everyone towards the end. But first and foremost, Jonas is actually alluding to the fact that cutting this very close because the NFL Fantasy Draft that I'm hosting actually kicks off in just over an hour's time. So we're going to keep this snappy. So we'll keep it snappy, not as many tangents. But Jonas, rest assured, we are the epitome of professionalism when it comes to keeping things on track, aren't we? So we'll see how we go. Global, g'day to you, mate. Good to see you jumping on as well. He said it's glad to see the end, which we agree with. Adam Leroy Jenkins, we always love one of those. And he said, in reference to you, Liam, which we'll get into a little bit later. Oh, look, the king of my friend/family league, which of course you took out, and a lot of banter between you, no doubt, over DMs. And Global, he said, what's your opinions on the tractor situation? I don't know if we'll have time to have a bit of a chat about that, but we might potentially have a quick skim over it when we're talking about the crystal ball side of things for next season. Jonas said just quickly that the Poo Flipper and Houston Donuts cost him Cash League 1, which we will get into at the back end of the episode. Ranked 465 overall, but finished third in the league. That's just really epitomises the head-to-head side of things, doesn't it? It's just bad luck galore. Slim, boys, good to see him joining us as well. An absolute legend. Smashing it out right to the end. Absolute legends. And wouldn't do it if we didn't have the likes of yourself, the legends, tuning in via vodcast and podcast. So, Liam, let us get into things without further ado. And, of course, we will go through our individual teams ever so quickly before we more broadly scope out into a bit of a recap of the year that was. So I ended up scoring a 2,373, and it was kind of a bit of a terrible way to end the season because you can see my ranking 5,859th overall, slid down finally 7-11. Good call, as I say, but this time it was a bad call. And an absolute terrible end to the year. Gobbled up yet another donut in the shape of Kerno. And proved a bit troublesome towards the end, did good old Charles. And that was following up after being dealt with an English-sized donut the previous round. And as I mentioned earlier, we're crawling to the finish line. And fun to actually think back, in round 16 and 17, I brought in Rosie and McKercher as my tactical swinging 23rd men, but I never actually got a chance to use that tactic as they immediately turned into on-field players, such was the carnage that I was dealt. And that week, I actually brought in Rankin, and I've spoken about this previously, but just this kind of was the sliding doors moment, the flashpoint in my team and my season as to where it started just to nosedive even further. So Rankin, brought him in, got suspended that same week for 4 games. Miller was ruled out for 4 to 5 weeks, injured wrist, and Gorn hurt his ankle. So that, as I said, the beginning of the end for me. From then on, Kerno got injured, English missed a week, Sheasel missed the last 2 games of the season, and of course the double whammy with Houston having his season ended early after taking out Rankin a week after he returned to my side from suspension. And on top of that, Heaney was laid out, but I was able to cover him at least with Dowling. So saved myself from an extra donut there on top of Kerno. I think for my season as a whole, towards the back end, it was a series of unfortunate events, really. And I actually even kept the trade up until round 23, which I used on Sheasel to Sinclair. And that's actually the longest that I've held onto a trade since I can't even remember when. And I still ate donuts. So, that was kind of just the bad way to end the season. It was very, very reminiscent of your start to last year. I remember you were copping injuries left, right, and centre. And I was dealt just blow after blow. And hopefully it's smooth sailing for 2025. But we'll see what happens. In terms of our key stats, we might read them out alongside each other. We've got highest rank, highest team value, best value trade, worst trade, and worst trade / bad luck. So Liam, I'll let you roll through just a quick recap of your end to the season, and we might do our side-by-sides just to compare the pair.
Yes. So quickly, on my side, let me just get it up. It was pretty standard over the side. I probably suffered with the Tom Stewart injury, 33, being subbed out, relying on Marty Hoare, as I mentioned earlier, for Sheasel, hurt with his 28 after being the hero the week before. And then just sort of low scores from the likes of Green and Rosie, Tom Powell, Philippou, and Caldwell as well, hurt. I did have the VC on Cherry, who scored 123. Then, because it was the last round and I kind of went, who gives a shit? I thought, risk it. Initially had the C on Marshall, who would have scored 120, which I would have been like, 3 points. Who really cares? Like, it's worth the risk.
Yep.
But no, put it on Bont. I mean, it's still only 7 points. So, really, who cares? But it would have been nice if I had been able to increase it and go to the likes of a Flanders or a Dacos, even a Merritt or a Walsh or anyone else that actually scored halfway decent.
Yep.
But finished. I did manage to field a full side, which was nice. Just obviously some injury affected scores there with Stewart, and then a real rookie playing on my bench in Marty Hoare.
Good old Marty Hoare.
That was it. Hopefully onto bigger and better things. So in terms of my score, I did score 2,349 for the round and I slid up the rankings, I guess, technically, by 312 spots. So, to finish 36,152nd overall, which was, the way it is, I guess.
Yep, that's just the way it is.
Not much more to say about it.
And in terms of highest rank, so we might go through, compare bit by bit. So my highest rank was 1,453rd, which is round 12. And I thought, yes, halfway point of the season, I can surely crack the 1K and hopefully catapult towards the 500. But it just completely fell away. Stagnated a fair bit. But didn't really do much after that. But what about yourself?
Yeah, my best rank was 35,840th overall, which was in round 23. So last round, so I went up slightly this round. But considering in round 4, I was ranked at 84,370th overall. Nice little climb back there, I guess. up around 50k spots. So
Yep.
and kind of upward
Least-
trajectory on the back end of the season, which is always nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, if you're reading out the lowest rank, it kind of contextualizes where you've come from. Because I remember you were struggling a fair bit, and then, as we know, like previous episodes, you've beaten me for scoring wise, like 6 or 7 on the trot, which we'll get into in a moment. So yeah, your turnaround in form was really good. Highest team value. So I was able to crack the 14,137,700. So not too bad. I think that was around about round 18, potentially around 19 from memory. And then yeah, as I started to cop donuts and guys were, I think it was off the back of good old Breville. He was being the starting sub for like 3 or 4 games in a row. He lost about 200k. So yeah, ended up sliding down to high 13 million. So yeah, that was kind of that.
Yeah. For me, I finished the season with my highest team value, 13,883. Sorry, 13,800,883, $200 overall. But I did also have 118.7k sitting in the bank because I had to trade out English to a ruckman. So I got myself a little bit stuck there. So I would have cracked 14 mil had it not been for the fact that I couldn't use all of my budget to actually get a player in. But anyway, that is what it is. What about the best trade, Damon?
Yeah, best trade. So hands down here, and it was kind of one of those sliding doors moments, and I went through it in my final team talk video in terms of not starting Flanders, which in retrospect was a bit of a silly move, but he was just squeezed out of my side. I was confident he was going to have a good year, and yeah, he did, but yeah, ended up trading Billings to Flanders in round 4. So made sure to get him in early, but I think he went up around about 30k at that point, or it would have been late in the season, around about round 15. I think it was after the buys. I ended up trading or upgrading Wilson to Butters. So yeah, either one of those, pick or choose, they're both pretty good. What about yourself?
Yeah, best trade probably came later in the season, and I mean, it's hard to weigh up what's a best trade. So I have gone for DeConning to Cherry in round 20. I was lucky as I had the bank to get any ruck I wanted when TDK did go down injured. So I went to Cherry, who was a very loyal servant in my side for the last few rounds. And I didn't realize this. This is insane. He averaged 148.8 while he was in my side for those 5 rounds. That's
just
insane. His lowest score that I had for him was a 123, and that came this round.
Yeah, must be nice. That
was beautiful to end the season. Considering I also got 604k, you could argue that he was a value option in the end, averaging 148.8. And he ended the season at 730k.
Jesus. Yeah, I remember that price point as well. It's just like, maybe he's like at the top like tier. Like, you know, are you underselling yourself? No, you actually got him at a complete bargain compared to English, who I had to hold. You're in a luxurious position there compared to me, and I wanted to punt English, and probably should have because he made me gobble up a donut. But he's virtually on a never again list for me. But I wish I had Cherry. That would have been very, very tasty. In terms of best value trade, I think it's probably one that will be uniform across the league. But funny that I was able to actually trade. Remember Jai Clark? Remember that youngster for Geelong who was just perennially subbed, and just still got him. Still got him, the mascot. Ended up trading him to Rosie, believe it or not. And Rosie turned around his form and was fully fit and did very, very well. So was happy with that. But what about yourself? You got someone different there?
Yeah, I probably would have gone the same thing. You had started the run sheet, so didn't want to go too similar. So I agree with that one, definitely. I went a bit differently. So I did go Moyle to DeConning in round 15. DeConning I got in for 515k. He went up 100k in 5 rounds by the time I traded him out, due to obviously that injury. But he also gave me scores of 176, 128, 95, and 77. Was a bit of a pod. So I guess value in a bit of a different sense, but not so much value in terms of what he cost, but in terms of output, I guess. At stage, absolutely. It was nice.
And considering as well, you were the trendsetter when it came to TDK, because remember you jumped on me early, and we were kind of I was not as confident. I'm like, yeah, don't know about Pitnet's going to come in and cramp his style, but you took the risk and it paid off. And then at least you were able to get those nice scores compared to people that jumped on him.
176, that I don't think many people got. That one was probably, I think a few people would have got his on 28, but not as many would have got the 176.
Yeah, even those people that jumped on him, I think it was like a week or two after Gorn got injured. Yeah. It was around about round 19, 20, and then he got injured almost a week after, or the week of people trading him in. So, yeah, they would have been spitting chips, but at least you were able to get some return out of him. In terms of the worst trade, so for me, I think it would have to be, and I'm kicking myself for this because I knew in my gut that I shouldn't go for this bloke because historically he's been very questionable, and it was Dan Houston as my trade-in, but even worse, it came off the back of Tom Stewart. So I made this trade when Stewart went onto his bye. And, of course, Stewart coming back off his bye, he was thrown into the middle and the shackles were released, wasn't getting a tag, all that sort of stuff, and elevated his scoring ceiling, much like what it was in previous seasons. And Houston, even though I think on debut he scored about 176 or something from memory, but then that was the highest of highs and he just dropped down and had so many sub-100 scores and just was putrid. And I think Farrell was cramping his style as well, which didn't help. So it really does come back to bite you. But, with things that, the coaches move, they change roles and you can't really foresee these things. But yeah, I should have known, as I said, just with Houston's historical averages. Otherwise, it probably would have been D'Ambrosio for Sammy Walsh, which, believe it or not, at that time cost me $225K. And I thought I was getting Walsh at a bit of a discount. D'Ambrosio, as we know, a lot of people traded him out, but he could have been a keeper virtually the way that he was playing. So, yeah, that in itself, it either would have been Walsh or it would have been Dawson at that stage. So I think both of those options would have been putrid. So I was doomed either way I was going to go. But what about yourself? Did you what did you see there?
D'Ambrosio, definitely a good one. I did the same thing. I traded him in the same round, but also traded in Matty Rowell for $640K. I got a few good scores out of him, but not worth it. But he's one of my worst trades. Another one, I'm not going to say Sexton Jakurno was a bad trade, not because of getting Sexton out, but more because of bringing Curnow in. Got to rely on the tried and true method of don't bring in key position forwards.
Exactly right.
And then probably even trading out Martin early on and then trading him back in. Not so much it being like there was a justification, but just the fact that I wasted 2 trades there, that frustrates me. That's probably it. Even Zach Fisher potentially, but I don't know. It's kind of scraping it.
And in terms of the worst trade, I've put here like worst trade in terms of the worst luck. I spoke about it, but it was Rankin coming into my team, but it came off the back of I became too comfortable because of the fact that they hadn't been hit with any injuries up until that point. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to correct Steele. He's annoying the absolute shit out of me. Traded him to Rankin, and that in itself scuttled me because it meant that I had to virtually be a man down and play a rookie at that stage and had to switch some things around. So Steele to Rankin. Rankin obviously got suspended for 4. Then he came back for 2 games or 1.5 games and got injured. So he actually played 1.5 games out of 7 potential games for me. So that was a terrible, terrible trade, but can't do much about it. What about yourself?
I mean, I don't know. I don't think like the worst luck for me was probably only one, and it was Philippou. Obviously trading him in, locking him in, and then him being a laid out due to illness. So having to gobble up a donut for him 1 week. Then the next week, him being out because of illness again.
Yeah. You'd think he'd only missed the one,
round. Yeah. So frustrating. Could have gone to like a Keys or someone like that and then actually got some scores. But it is what it is now. In terms of other trades, and I'm going to say worst luck because, again, didn't listen to myself. And it's Jack Steele. Never trade him in. Do not bring him in. Like... I said
fall for it like 3 seasons in a row. Yeah.
I was like, he's on my never again list. Then he puts out one good score, and I'm like, I'm ready to be hurt again. Hurt again.
Never again. He's now almost in the same category as Fife, I reckon.
It's like, 100%. I'm like, if you see me putting him in my side, I want you to drive to wherever I am and slap the phone out of my hand. Because
just delete your team completely, just wipe it and start from scratch. But this like come the preseason, you know that like if you've got the spare coin around about the mark of where he's priced, you're going to be ever so tempted again. But yeah, you just got to no this time, no.
And I was just having a quick look now at my trades, and I mean this was a great round, I reckon. My unluckiest trade, I remember this, was probably what's his name? Josh Draper from Freo.
Oh, yes.
Traded him out, and that was the week that he scored like 150 or something. Like he went nuts that one week. And so I literally traded him out for 216.1k after holding him for pretty much the whole season until round 16. And then he went nuts. Traded him to Charlie Curnow.
Oh, God.
But even some of the others, like trading Fisher and Rao to Caldwell and Dunks, that was a good trade. I was happy with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was a nice
good pod.
But anyway.
Yep. There's so many more things we could go through, but it'll take up some valuable time that I need for the NFL fantasy draft that is coming up. So I'm conscious of the time. But let's round things out with our head-to-head. Of course, it is our final in our head-to-head. And, of course, last week we were unfortunately unable to record our weekly episode with me, of course, over in Bali, just living it up. As you can see, I've got a massive tan, just keeping out of the sun, mind you, lathering myself up with sunscreen, considering that I do look transparent. And escaped, of course, the shit show that is SuperCoach. But meanwhile, you actually managed your 7th win on the trot against me. But to end the season, I managed to right the ship and get the final win of the season with the leaderboard finishing as 16-8 in my favour with a differential of 1,759 points. But as I said earlier, credit to you for being able to fight your way back and nab a 50% win-loss ratio when it looked very dire come mid-year without a win on the board. So that's a massive win. And credit to you, Liam, for your late season turnaround. It's reminiscent of Carlton's 2023 season. You did very, very well. So well done to you. Meanwhile, I had 2024 Carlton season, the way that I finished. Funny. No. Not really. It's traumatizing. Well, with that, Liam, let us have a look at, of course, the usual good, the bad, and the ugly, but this time with a look at the entire season. Let's get to it. Well, yes, with the good. So we'll go through line by line ever so quickly. So defensively, probably can't look past this bloke, Harry Seasel. The kid, genuine freak, took his game to the next level once more in 2024 with 18 tons from 21 games and 10 of those being 120 plus. Just incredible performance. In the midfield, I'll get you to read out the bad, Liam, because I know you like going through reminiscing on the bad things. For the midfield, Bontempelli. So many doubted whether he could come close to his career best 129.7 from 2023, and he proved those doubters wrong with a 126.4 as the highest averaging player in SuperCoach for the season yet again. Such was his dominance, he managed to smash out scores of 162, of course, as you remember, against Freo when he had the flu, and then 157 the very next week when he was carrying an apparent back issue. The man, he isn't human. He's not mortal. With a ruck, you spoke about him, Tristan Cherry. Bloke finished with 322.6k above his starting price with the best 3-round average of 149.7 and best 5-round average of 148.8 for the season. So must almost be an auto start for 2025. We might chat about him briefly when we chat about the crystal ball side of things. And for the forward line, Sam Flanders had 20 consecutive tons in a row and tonned up in 21 of 23 games, lived up to his late 2023 hype and then some. So tip of the cap to him, as well as all those people that I've just mentioned. But Liam, how's it look for the bad?
In terms of the bad, in the defensive line, we do have James Sicily. And probably a bit harsh, wasn't overly bad, but just wasn't really overly good either. Finishing with just an average of 98.9, which is a very far cry from his 114 the season prior. And it marked his lowest average since 2019. So not good from Sistog. Moving on to the mids, and it is Christian Petrarca. Struggled again to reach his high ceiling form with just 6 tons across 13 games before he was obviously, unfortunately, ruled out for the season. with a key injury after many had just traded him in as well, which hurt. Did finish 148.7k below his starting price and with a 103.2 average, which is his worst across 6 seasons. Could be a discounted player for 2025, but will it be at the D's or will it be somewhere else? Who knows?
Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Global, have to wait and see.
Yeah, I don't think there's much you can talk about that.
No, he hasn't even come out and spoken about it, so we can only speculate.
It's also deafening. But anyway, moving on to the ruck. In the bad, we have Tim English, one of the more disappointing players for the season, dropping from his average in 2023 of 128 to just 108. And that saw his high starting price plummet from 715.1k down to 521.9k for a 193.2k drop. He managed just 14 tons, down from 20, and at 8, 120 plus scores, down from 15. So not great from the old English breakfast, who surprisingly is still staying at the doggies. I don't know. Surprised. And
thought he would have been on the other side of the country.
Late to West Coast, but anyway. And onto the forwards, we have Isaac Rankin. He was a horrible trade-in with his 4-game suspension and then being concussed himself after returning. While he did score well, it was a terribly bad dose of bad luck for anyone who did bring in the old Isaac Rankin.
Well, a bit of a segue here because that was ugly in my situation. So let's round out the ugly. And in defence, it was hard to pick here, but we'll put this bloke in just because he's got a history of disappointing, just due to his body, unfortunately. It is Jordan Ridley. Made a return from injury in round 11 and looked to be in some nice form, averaging 111. Lulling 15% of his new owners into a false sense of security until, again, yes, he copped yet another injury after 9 games, forcing his owners to yet again burn a trade. Unfortunate. For the midfield, we can't look past none other than the pig himself, Clary Oliver, dealing with off-field issues coming into the season and was never able to recapture fitness or form. For the rucks, this bloke, talking about swindling, Jordan Sweet, it was more so Hinkley. Now, Sweet looked to be a must-have cash cow, but quickly went from sweet to sour, ding ding, very quickly with him getting injured and then Hinkley refusing to recall him to the team and even play Vicentini over him. That is until after we all traded him out, such as the troll that is Hinkley, and Soldo was injured, so they were forced to play him. So thank you, Hinkers. And for the forward line, surprise, surprise, Charlie Curnow. Late season trade that looked great value based on his decent form and late season fixturing against seemingly easy opponents. And we didn't factor in, of course, Carlton turning to water and Curnow battling with multiple rolled ankles and tapering form. Cherry on top was him missing the last 2 games of the season due to, yep, you guessed it, another rolled ankle. So, Carlton, just manage your injuries correctly. What are you doing? So that is a bit of a quick recap of the good, the bad, and the ugly. But let us know in the comment section if you are watching live what your thoughts are and who goes into which category for you. But let's chat now more broadly about cash cows, regrets, key takeaways, and look into our SuperCoach Edge patented crystal ball for the 2025 season in The Price is Right.
Show me the money.
The price is wrong, bitch.
Well, The Price is Right, bit of a different spin on it this time. Just a bit of more of a recap about the players perform well, everything else, and we will roll through now the top players in each line, and we might just at the end just point out any key surprises, all that sort of stuff. So, Liam, these are the players in each line based on average. So for defence, midfield, ruck, and forwards, do you want to kick us off with defence?
Yes, in terms of defenders, and this is based off average, we have Harry Sheasel, Nick Dacos, Luke Ryan, Lockie Whitfield, I'm going to assume that is Jeremy McGovern, and Jack Sinclair.
Now, we probably would have said at the start of the season, Sheasel, Dacos were almost locks, at least Dacos. Ryan, I know some...
Ryan, I would have. Probably not to the extent that he was.
And Whitfield was a little bit of a surprise. We probably would have been banking on him getting injured, but didn't happen.
Yeah.
McGovern likewise as well. He actually got injured, but came back and still was able to manage a nice average for the rest of the season. And Sinclair, I think I had him outside the top 6 for me, probably in sort of the closer to the top 10 bracket. I just thought greater time in the midfield might have meant that his average would have dropped, but
very role dependent for him.
100%. So for the midfield as well, so we have Bont, Butters, Neil, Treloar, Sarong, Merritt, Dunkley, and Cripper. So of those players, Butters, Bont, no surprise there. Neil, I don't think I had him in my top 8 to begin with, but I mean, he had a good season last year. I just thought he would have got tagged more than what he did. That was the biggest surprise for me.
And I think sometimes with like the mids, it's not necessarily like you probably can look at almost 10 to 15 mids where they're all kind of close in average. So it's hard to pick specifically these going to be the top 8. So it's always going to be a bit of a shock. So like I think you look at Neil and I go, I'm not shocked he's there, but I'm also surprised. Like it's both ways.
Yeah, well, he got tagged a few times, but nowhere near enough.
No.
It's very, very strange. And when he did get tagged, like he actually got quelled quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it never makes sense when it comes to that, does it? But a surprise there is Treloar. I don't think many people would have been predicting him to finish as a top 8 mid. To his credit, probably in fantasy, yes. But in SuperCoach, he's a nice surprise there, and would have been a pod for quite a few people that were after someone of that caliber. Sarong took his game to another level, looked really good. Probably not so much a surprise. Merritt, probably a lot of people would have banked on. That's no surprise. Dunkley, and it is a surprise that we've got Dunkley and Neil in there.
Yeah, the only double, isn't it?
Yeah. Both guys there from the one team.
I was surprised by. He wouldn't have thought, like, he was a forward last year. He scored well. Obviously, was playing as a midfielder, but I wouldn't have thought he would finish top 8 or top 8. Mid. Sorry.
And Cripper as well, rounding us out. He's been in some scintillating form. Again, one of the guys that just is virtually untaggable, and they always just tag Walsh because he's susceptible to it. But he was a beneficiary of that, and really good season by him. For the rucks, Gawn and Cherry. So Gawn, you could probably say no worries. Cherry came from the clouds.
Yeah.
As we know, so yeah.
You probably would have put English there potentially.
Yep. Big disappointment, good old English.
Yeah.
Maybe even Royal Marshall as well.
Or even Bundy. Like, you probably would have expected Bundy to have been up there as well.
Yeah, he's a bit of a rollercoaster season. Started okay, came good, and then just towards the latter end of the season, he just ran out of puff. Whereas Royal Marshall was okay, went shit, and then he just killed it towards the back end. But very good. So it's going to be an interesting setup for next year. And for the forwards, Flanders, Heaney, Zorko, Moore, Rankin, and Jackson. So that's probably more of a straightforward one, I think. With Flanders, Heaney. Oh, well, Heaney's a little bit of a surprise, but I think with the
Flanders,
lack of quality up there, Flanders is probably the lock and load.
Yeah.
Dylan Moore from the Hawks has done well.
Shot. Yeah, not a shot.
Yeah. Has been in that sort of average. Yeah. Rankin's been... Yeah. And then Jackson, who, a lot of people started because DPP, ruck forward, but also, just due to the lack of quality in the forward line. Let's roll now into our biggest regrets. So I think for me, it would be, and it's something that you can probably align with here, and I went against the cardinal sin of trading in a key position forward or a key position player. I got swindled with Carlton's schedule and the fact that Charlie looked like he was a pretty good value player compared to having to potentially use another trade to then fund to bring in a more, which is probably what I should have done. I tried to go for a bit of a quick and easy out, but didn't work. And then for me, the other one was trading Hayden Young, which is, I guess more broadly speaking, talking about giving players a bit more leeway at the start of the season. He only had 2 games, and then I was like, no, I have to trade him. I got not tricked, but I kind of, instead of backing my gut and backing him in, I followed the crowd. Massive break even. Was going to lose cash as well. I was conscious of that if I held on to him. I followed the crowd in that case, and probably could have kept him. I probably would have ended up trading him at some point in the season, I think. But yeah, I think as a starting thing, yeah, bit of a shot in the foot. Liam, what about you? Any massive regrets?
Same probably as you. Key position forwards. Let's remember to avoid them next year.
Yep.
And I think just like it's probably comes into a learning, and we'll get there in a second. But a little bit of just back your gut. Like my regret is that I didn't back my gut early on. Like you do all the preseason tinkering and you get your team, and then all of a sudden you see one game and you're like, oh no, I've got to change everything. One change leads to 17 other changes. You get too much cash left over and you're like, I've got to spend it, which is kind of what happened to me early on. And I think that really affected me in terms of my team going forward.
Yep, totally agree with that. So, yeah, a bit of a segue there, as you mentioned, onto key takeaways and learnings.
Yep.
So, I think for me, and it's a bit of an asterisk here because it's not a one-size-fits-all type discussion, but I think I'm going to think twice about starting players at a massive price point. So, using Bont as an example here, he was, obviously the highest scorer for 2024, but he still lost 100k within the first 7 rounds, with his average dropping 12 points below his starting average. So it just goes to show that, even though he ended up being, you have to sort of work out, well, is it worth not starting that player and then using a trade to get him in? There's other examples here, like Dacos. He's probably more of an applicable example here, but there was like the discussion point: do I start Dacos? Do I fade him because he's going to cop a tag with who did he end up being? Winhager against the Saints early on, and then of course against the Hawks was another one. So he ended up dropping 84k in the first 5 rounds, and for those people that didn't start him, that's 84k up the sleeve, which is almost equivalent of what a return from a cash cow. So something you have to keep in mind. But it's just impossible to maintain such a high price point naturally. But as I said, can you run the risk of fading such a popular player and missing out on bulk points early on if they do go well? So you've got to really identify tag risks. I think that's probably the easiest play, as it was with Dacos in that example. And the question is, with Cherry, he's going to be a very, very popular ruck pick for 2025. If he is priced 700k plus, can you afford to fade him? Or, fade him and then trade him in? Or just start him? I think, personally, with the rucks, because there's only 2 positions, I think you can probably back it in a bit more and just be like, doesn't matter if they're going to drop in price, if he's going to be a keeper, compared to other options. There aren't going to be many other options on offer, I don't think. If you're starting a TDK or someone in comparison, you'd probably want to keep them anyway. So, I think that's kind of the one idea I had around that. I don't know if you have any other things to add with that.
No, agreed with that. On the most part, I'm not against picking a player at 700k. Like I don't regret starting Bond. I regret starting English, and I know that that's 2 very different outcomes over the season. But I think I got lulled into starting English because I had cash left over, and I kind of didn't have him the year before, so I felt like I needed to start him, basically. Yeah. Kind of go a bit pod like with English, but with Bont, I'm comfortable with that, and I think it's just weighing it up. Like I do think definitely Cherry 700k next year. I would expect I'd be starting him. It's a case by case basis.
Yeah, exactly. And English is probably a greater example there of someone that you probably could have faded. And something I think we spoke about in the preseason, where players that have been in the top echelon, especially at the starting, such a high starting price, it's hard for them to maintain that average that carried across from the previous year. So English, I think we spoke about English in the preseason at that very point of like, do we just wait for him to drop on the off chance that he doesn't start as well as what he could, which he didn't. But the other thing I wanted to sort of mention was a similar sort of thing, but thinking twice about trading in players at a massive price point, and that is 650k plus. So, there's a lot of us that were burnt with Ryan that were traded in, at an eye-watering 686k, when, of course, his tapering form hit and he plummeted in price. But he has probably risk v reward weighed up alongside high ownership. And I think it's kind of like, well, I want to jump on him in case it continues. You're going to miss out on those scores. Flanders, I think, is an interesting case in point, and it was something that was brought up by the crew at Dr. SuperCoach, and I spoke about it in a previous episode. But once Flanders reached the 640k mark, all it took was 2 back-to-back games of 104 and 106, which is below his season average of 119.6. He then fell 35k across 2 weeks, and that's, of course, despite not scoring below 100 for the entirety of the season up to that point. So I think if you're penny pinching, you can potentially hold out a little bit longer, or alternatively look for other guys that show some upside, and wait for those big price players to potentially drop down in price. So just a strategy side of things. And then Merritt's probably another example, who fell nearly 90k after reaching a price of 668.8k in round 4. I think in this example here, I would be using this as like sort of a measuring or a yardstick early in the season, as opposed to like at the midway point of the season where they've shown a massive amount of form over, say, 12 rounds, compared to Merritt, who's like in the first 3 rounds of the season, 4 rounds of the season, he's built up that price point, and then no doubt had a bit of an off game, below 5-6 points below his season average, and he's dropped. So yeah, something that I'll just sort of factor in and keep in mind strategy wise, I think.
I'd even drop it down to 600k. I think almost going 600 to 650, like that's when you've really got to think. Like 650k, I wouldn't probably start a player anymore. Trade in a player because I think it's too much cash. 600 to 650, maybe you're thinking about it. But even 600, that's probably where my limit was starting to get to as the season went on, trying to avoid picking players at their sort of height, if that makes sense, trying to find value in terms of points and spread the cash around. I think that's probably rounds it out for key takeaways and learnings. Again, back your gut. We do all the preseason info, like
research,
that's the word. But at the start of the season, and back your gut. Don't see a one game and go, I'm
sample
not going to
size,
this player out and all that kind of stuff. Just back yourself in where you can.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to our favorite, the crystal ball for 2025. Patented SuperCoach Edge crystal ball. And first up, I think we've got who will be starting. We'll be starting the likes of Cherry, Sheasel, Flanders, and Dacos, who we'd expect would be among the top averaging players for respective lines in 2025. Damon, what are your thoughts?
Yep. Yeah, I think, as you said earlier, like Cherry, just with limited options in the ruck line, I think you can afford to pay up for him. Sheasel, I think he's a lock and load for me. He's just an incredible player. Played in the midfield, off defence, doesn't matter. He's just a gun. And Flanders, yes, he's another gun. Proved himself now over the entirety of a season and not just the back half of 2023.
Around. Like he's ended the season forward, so he's still scoring well enough around the season, around the ground.
Isn't he? Yeah, that's a bit of an extra string to his bow. Shows the versatility. And then Dacos, I think that the only thing that may hold him back is if Collingwood do have a bit of a decline next year. I'm just conscious of their ageing list, and the more responsibility being handed to Dacos, with you'd expect Sidebottom, Pendlebury to potentially taper off. There's so many guys across the team, each line. There might be more responsibility heaped on Dacos, and with that may come a bit more attention via tags and stuff, which, speaking to what I spoke of earlier about, do you start Dacos? Do you fade him potentially? It depends on the schedule and everything else, and if there are early tags that he could attract. So that would be the only thing that I'd factor in. But outside of that, I think all 4 of those guys, you probably have confidence in starting.
I'm also going to jump back quickly, to key takeaways and learnings. I think, just really quickly, we overstated the importance of round 0. I think we all worried about round 0.
Yes.
We can't start any players from round 0. We can't start too many. It really didn't factor in that badly. So just something to think back on when we assume that round 0 is a thing again in 2025. I agree with all of them. Probably the one that I'm least hot on is probably Dacos. I probably look to fade him at this stage. Obviously with absolutely zero information about price or what position he's playing and all that, but yeah.
Yep, no, I totally agree there. And a very good point about round 0 as well. Early season buys, all that sort of stuff like that. Those new strategies, they threw us completely. Yeah. They just gave us the heebie-jeebies when they probably shouldn't have. TDK, he's another one that's going to be spoken about. in terms of the ruck line, Cherry, do you go with TDK as well, an entirely new setup, or do you go with maybe like a Romo slash Cherry or a Romo slash TDK, or do you go back to the well and, back in Gorney? He's going to be almost approaching mid-30s, but still going about doing his thing quite well. But yeah, the big question there is he going to be persisted as the number one ruck without Pitnet cramping his style?
Yeah, no, agreed. Next up, I don't mind TDK. I think he's one to consider. It's going to be dependent on if he is the outright number one ruck, but yeah, I don't know if I'd start him. I don't know if I'm that brave.
No, not exactly.
Moving on, and we've got Sanders. He could still prove to be a nice cash cow. I don't know what he's priced at currently.
Yeah, it comes down to probably his price point more than anything. But yeah, he's someone that might slip under the radar.
Yeah, but he could end up with a nice little ability to raise some cash because he's shown that he has the ability, and it's just whether he gets the opportunity. Having not really played. When did he last play? Round 9.
Yeah.
So he didn't play the last few games, kind of off and on, but a lot of times well.
Just one guy that I forgot to mention there in the forward line, potentially, if he still maintains it, but Philippou, he has that late season surge. Yeah, so you'd want to back him in as well. So there's a lot of the next gen type players that we're looking at. For Philippou's definitely one of those. So yeah, don't mind him.
I was gonna say he's the one that I'd be starting as well, starting as a forward.
Yep.
I can't imagine he starts. I can't imagine he's not forward eligible.
Yeah, no, exactly right. Yeah. Now, just in terms of DPP, you alluded to it there. Does the forward line, and we know that we struggle with this year, does it become even more barrenous with a lot of DPP forward players losing DPP? What do you think? Like in terms of, if we're looking at the top scorers that we ran through, so Flanders, I think L. Payton made a tweet. I didn't digest it, I must admit, clearly enough, but I think he was saying that he's going to maintain his DPP, whether it be defensive mid or defensive forward, because I think he played a fair bit of time forward, surprisingly, in the last few rounds. So hopefully he maintains his DPP, so he's going to be a lock and load, as we spoke of. Heaney, does he now become a mid only?
I'd say so. I don't know.
Yeah.
Gut feel.
Yeah.
I've got no basis for it.
Yeah. The other one, Zorko, obviously playing off defence. Is he a defender only or a defensive mid? You think he wouldn't be a forward, so we'll lose one there. Dylan Moore probably will keep his, because he's been playing forward, so he's one that may have to rely upon. Rankin, mid forward, does he keep it?
Probably expect him to keep, because he's only forward currently, isn't he?
He's just forward. Yeah, I think he was in line for mid forward. So
you would expect him to maintain at least some forward status. Who else would there be?
And Jackson should keep his ruck forward status, you'd think.
As well, potentially could keep it.
Yes.
I don't know how much. I can't off the top of my head. But Jackson, you'd expect. I think it'll be okay, because you've also got the likes of, as we said, we've got Philippou as a potential. I think it'll be fine. I think it'll work out. It'll come out in the wash.
Yep, exactly.
It was fine this year. Wasn't as bad as we all thought.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, hopefully it stays that way, and Champion Data and the brains at SuperCoach HQ don't pull the rug from out underneath us. But that is virtually that. I think Josh has just quickly said, are you going to bring Brent Daniels in next year? It might be a bit of a pod, potentially. We'll have to wait and see. He's signed on as well for, I think it's 5 or 6 years. It was reported today. So, he's locked in his future at the Giants, but an absolute gun at that is for sure. Now, with that, we shall go on to, of course, Liam, the segment that allows me to don this hat and say, Liam, I'm the captain. Finish her off, Liam.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
For the last time for season 2024. And, of course, whilst we obviously don't have any captains to discuss, apart from our fine selves, Liam, considering we are wearing the hats. As you mentioned a few episodes ago, we wanted to give a shout out to those that sent in their own renditions for the intro sting to this segment. So it's really hard to try and narrow down the winner, but there's a couple we need to mention, or probably three, and one of which is, and I forget one of our viewer/listeners who sent in, or their name, that sent in a rendition from their son. So it was our youngest contributor, and he would have been, sub 12 years old, probably sub 10, and gave you a little cute "I'm the Captain Now," which is a classic, and a toot toot as well at that. Then we also had one which we'll play now here from Gurav, who said it in Hindi.
देख मेरी तरफ, अब मैं कप्तान हूँ.
Very good. And then I think we can't look past, Liam, this next one, which was sent in by another Discord member, much like Gurav, Trav27, and he sent this in. Very, very accurate.
Look at me. I'm the captain now.
Whoa.
It sends chills up your spine, doesn't it?
That was so eerie watching it with the footage as well.
You sure it just wasn't the original snippet?
Oh, no,
maybe.
Seriously.
We won't know. Yeah. Now, Liam, I sent you as well. Just a bit of a speaking of captains.
I know what you're about to say.
Yes. Whilst I wasn't allowed to take the cockpit for the flight to and from Bali, which is a surprise, no doubt, of course, because I was wearing the hat, but they wouldn't let me in, I did spot a couple of random captains. So there was, of course, the pilot of the flight that I took, and I was like, there he is. And he, as I was about to take the photo, I didn't send this to you initially, he took the hat off as I was taking a photo. I'm like, it's like he knew. So it was quite funny. But then I spotted, in Bali, staying in Seminyak, riding along the shores of Seminyak Beach, this fine fellow here on screen. Check that out. So he was randomly wearing these captain's hats. Sent you this, and I couldn't believe it. He was just riding along Seminyak Beach on these motorized bicycles. I don't know what the contraption is. Hotted up and had the guns out in full display. Incredible. And I just knew that he'd be rolling up alongside people on the shores, being like, I'm the captain now, just whispering in people's ears, because that's what I would have done. But yeah, very, very good to see. Liam, we go head-to-head for our captain's choices across the season. You, I guess, heading into round 23, because of course we didn't have captains to choose from, because we obviously didn't do an episode. But heading into round 23, I had Cherry for the 141. Eclipse your selection of Bonds 123. And of course, given that, as I said, we weren't able to record an episode last week heading into round 24, we didn't have any selections, but it wouldn't have mattered in terms of me making up enough ground to win, with the final tally reading you 13 wins to my 9 with a differential of 62. And must say, I really should have wised up to jumping on Cherry as quickly as you did, because you worked it out, I reckon, before me, late in the piece, that he was the cheat code of SuperCoach. So well done to you, kind sir, and well done on the victory.
Thank you. It was great. Great game.
Great game. I love how you've actually fit your captain's hat over your headphones as well. That is absolutely incredible.
The only thing, we've got the tag, and it's like dangling on the back of my head, and it's just annoying me. You can see it. Anyway.
And
Yes.
Jonas Walsh is here on the live stream as well. He said, I told you it was a bad omen to name your SuperCoach team after the parish swindler. Oh my God.
Oh. Bloody hell. All right.
Fine. Be like that then. But an acceptance speech?
No. I have no words.
Just humble? Humble in victory?
Yeah, that's it.
As I am humble in defeat. Speaking of victories, Len, it's a huge congrats to our two 1K SuperCoach Edge Cash League winners, which was run through our Discord, of course. In League 1, and I'll let you read out the winner of League 2, but League 1, Dan's side, I Can Hardly Read, classic team name. We've got a classic team names among this. Defeating Mitchell's Hot Pies for 2,523 to 2,442. So well done to you, Dan. And who won in League 2? An even better team name, but unfortunately wasn't the winner this time around.
No, unfortunately he didn't win, but it is, congratulations to Mike, of course, with his side. His Don is good. And he defeated Jake's I Am the Captain Now 2,439 to 2,366. So very good effort there by Mike, but also great effort to everyone. Dan, Mitchell, Mike, and Jake. Good job, guys. Huge congrats to both the inaugural champs and commiserations, obviously, to those runners up.
Exactly right. And we can't forget, Liam, for the SuperCoach Edge Legends Cup Open League champion, we crown... Wait, I haven't even checked to see if this is the right way around. It is Chef's Titans, who finished top among our group and ranked 30th overall as well. And you, sir, have... I've just smashed that. You, sir, have earned yourself... It is not broken. You've earned yourself a shiny... I don't know if I should no longer call it a shiny new... A dilapidated, missing a few gems... SuperCoach Championship ring from our friends at SuperCoach Championship Rings. So get in touch with us and we will happily post out your bling.
Yes, and
very good. What a season.
To the SuperCoach Championship ring for all of their support of the show.
Exactly right. Yep. No, we couldn't run these sort of things without them, so can't thank them enough. But Liam, ever so quickly, we will just throw to it just for the sake of consistency. And it is, of course... What is it, Liam? To...
No.
Hey, I got to know.
Now, of course, there aren't any I got to knows this time around, given the season is done and dusted. Surprise, surprise. But seeing as though we're here, let us know your thoughts heading into 2025. If you've got any instant feedback, let us know via our Discord. You can hit us up across our socials, which we'll run through in a moment. If there's anything content-wise you'd like us to venture into or have ideas for new segments we can adapt week on week for 2025, we are all ears. So hit us up across socials, Discord, all that sort of stuff. We will be hoping to do a bit of a survey for those in our community. So again, thank you, one and all. Now, Liam, that does bring us to the end of the finale. We sped through this because, of course, the NFL fantasy draft kicks off in 11 minutes. So it is the end of this episode. It's just from rolling from one fantasy SuperCoach platform to the next. But before we sign off, where can our listeners and viewers find us across our socials if they just want to hit us up and just chat, have a yarn?
Yes, you people, you can find us. You can find us on YouTube at SuperCoach Edge. Just search SuperCoach Edge. And don't forget to like and subscribe so that you know when our content does drop from year to year at this stage. On Facebook, search SuperCoach Edge. On Instagram, search SuperCoach Edge. On TikTok, search SuperCoach Edge. I don't have the thing. Oh, there it is. It is there. I scrolled too far.
Yes.
On Twitter, at SuperCoach_Edge. David at DavidJ88 and myself at Liam_95. That's where you'll find us on socials. That was a mess. That was a hot mess.
Oh, very good. Hot mess for the you people. And Adam as well. He's just absolutely in hysterics, laughing, I think, at stupidity and me dropping the ring, almost breaking things.
I just want to say, to the reference before, I was in Adam's family league. Took out the win in the grand final, and so I've decided that means that I'm just invited to every family dinner from now on.
You've earned your way in.
Yeah, that's it. I was like, I'm coming to family reunions, like Christmas, I'm going to be there. He has told me that there's 2 seats available.
2 seats? Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'll have to earn it.
But I might bring you along instead, David.
Oh, that's all right. I might just be peering through the window, being like, "Can I come in now?"
That's right. Adam will go up and just close the blind in front of you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe I'll have to win respect. If I can beat him in NFL fantasy, maybe I might earn a seat at the table. But very, very good. Well, Liam, with that rounds us out for our season finale and puts a bow on season 2024. And we want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you, or as you said, Liam, you people, as you would say, for tuning into our content from week to week, whether it was here on YouTube or via audio podcast. The amount of growth that we've actually seen across both platforms year on year has absolutely blown us away. So thank you so much for your support. And Liam, for you, thank you for putting up with my shit gags and best yet, jumping on board with them most of the time as we drift off into countless tangents. So apologies, we don't have much more time. Look at Paddy behind me there, the namesake. He's looking at himself. My cat, of course, I'm referring to. What are you doing? He's sniffing in the corner of the room. I think he's over SuperCoach just as much as me. But Liam, thank you yourself for for jumping back on board. And with that, rest assured, we will once again be back for 2025. Well, I haven't actually officially asked you off stream yet, Liam, if you will. I kind of feel a bit like Don Pike announcing that Adam Simpson will be coaching his final game during the presser, only for Simo to say, Pike, mate, you haven't asked me.
Yeah.
So, Liam, are you going to be back?
We haven't discussed this yet, so there's still some decisions to be made, I think, and I'll get back to you. No, I'm joking.
Exactly right.
I will be back.
Oh, very good. Thank the Lord. And Adam has said, we drafted during the stream. No, we're cutting the stream very shortly. Don't worry. Jonas has said, thank you to both of us for another great season. And thank you, Jonas, for tuning in and your support throughout the year. And we'll catch you, of course, in the NFL Fantasy League. Adam said, audience voted, team, do it. Slim says, sensational boys. You are the best. Thank you. You're the best.
Thank you. Thanks.
And Jonas has said, Liam is Adam's new daddy. You're taking the head seat at the table. Son, pass me the salt. As for now, though, we'll both be jumping into, and I assume you are, Liam, but AFLW Fantasy. Have a bit of a go at that, see how we go. Myself, I'm looking forward to NFL Fantasy and BBL SuperCoach, which will come around, and I'll be putting out some content for that as well, so make sure to tune in on YouTube for that on our channel here. And above all else, we're going to try and detox from AFL SuperCoach. And, of course, as Josh, who has actually tuned into my Blue Baggers Edge channel as well a few times, and thank you, kind sir, he has asked, when's the Blue Baggers Edge stream? I do have to put up, as you've asked there, a review of the St Kilda Carlton game. So don't worry, I will be doing that after the NFL Fantasy Draft. And that's that. So, as I said, check out Blue Baggers Edge for those that are of that Blue Baggers persuasion, or if you want to be edged, as it were. So check that out. But Liam, before we know it, we'll be tinkering with the team planner for 2025. So thank you once again. Thank you everyone tuning in. Liam, any last words that you'd like to give and leave with the viewers, listeners?
Yes, I'd just like to thank you people for listening.
Just offend them again one last time.
I'd like to thank, obviously, Damon as well. Damon needs a big shout out for all the content he puts up, all the production, everything he does. So thank you for the ride as well. Love putting up with your jokes. Not even putting up with, you're the best. What are you talking about?
I don't know how I put up with you people.
You people, seriously. No, thanks guys. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching. Thanks for joining in. Love it. Love it.
Exactly. We wouldn't be doing it without them tuning in, and it's provided countless fun from week to week, and always a joy to jump on with you, Liam, to do this week after week, and of course then just catch up when we have our family gatherings, dinners, all that sort of stuff. And
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always good fun. But again, one and all, finally, thank you once again, and we'll catch you on the flip side. See you next time.
See you guys.